Hey everyone, I'm Robbie Cornthwaite.
I'm Daniel Mullen.
I'm Angelo Costanzo.
I'm Marco Flores.
I'm Marcelo Garuska.
I'm Ian Fife.
This is Cassio, and you're watching.
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 And you are watching
Purebred Reds, Adelaide United Fan TV.
Hello and welcome to the Purebred Reds Adelaide United Fan TV. I'm your host, Ellis Gelios. I'm joined in the studio today for a special update video by a member of staff at Adelaide United. It's a bit of a different sort of video that we're doing today. I'm very pleased to say that I'm joined by a friend and a current, well...
Are we throwing friend around?
In inverted quotations, friend. And the current football operations coordinator at Adelaide United, Will Cutts. Welcome to the studio, Cuttsy.
Mate, it's an absolute pleasure. You've been trying to get me on for like 2 years now.
You're that popular with all the podcasts you've been on that you've just been resisted by the club. So,
well, at some point I thought, I've got to come on, at some point, and we're finally here. Now, do you want me to look at the camera? Do you want me to look directly into your eyes? Like, what's the deal? Am I looking over here?
I'm assuming looking directly into my eyes might not be the most comfortable thing for you. So,
100% not. So I'll look at the camera then.
The
chemistry might be a little bit off.
We don't want to get too personable because
no, but I think we should
the viewers might get a bit uncomfortable.
No, but I think we should just let it out there that we have been friends for a very long time.
Okay.
So, and I think it's easier for
First time you've acknowledged me as a friend in a long time.
No, but I think it is fair that we have been mates for a very long time. And you doing this show and me working at the club has always, pushed the boundaries at some points at Alsos. But we have got along a long way. And our friendship did start from Adelaide United. So I think you've got some questions about that later, but I'd rather get that out, that we are mates. So this has made it easier, but also why I've taken me a while to come on the show.
Well, we appreciate that you've put that on the record.
Yes.
And just for the sake of the viewers as well, there will be some questions asked that are not you expressing the views of the club, more your own personal opinions.
Oh yeah, no, I will say you've got some questions, and I'll ask you some stuff too, because I think it's really, really good that we have people like you doing this stuff for the club and for Australian football. But yeah, there is some questions, and again, as always, yes, we know how that stuff sort of works.
I've got to say I'm a bit nervous. I don't usually get nervous in these interviews, so this is weird.
Your legs are shaking a little bit.
Shaky. Look at me.
And that's what I said is we got the mics though this week too, because we want to try and sort some audio stuff and there. But I said it's good for you because now you've got something to do with your hands now. And
I don't have to do weird things with my kneecaps anymore while Marcos Flores talks in his delightful accent.
Where do I rank in guests?
I'm gonna say
really low.
I'm going to say scrape into top 15 at least.
And you've had 16 interviews. So.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
No, I'll cop that, and hopefully we bring something also to you guys, the listeners. So
look, it's a very different kind of.
I know your password now.
You do. It's not. It's just the last 6 digits of my number. So
no one has that anyway. So
let's
continue.
Same for my credit card too. So if you want to bankrupt me of the $100 I've got,
I'll keep our friendship out of this sort of stuff.
Let's get into it. I'm going to ask you on your current thoughts on the state of the ALeague and also the state of the WLeague and National Youth League, because however these competitions are travelling, it's fair to say impacts your ability to do your job in the best way possible. So it's important that all these competitions are as healthy as they can be. So tell us, how do you see these comps all rolling out in what is a very weird time and a restructured season, new dates in the calendar, and how do you rate them all at the moment, how they look?
Youth League's a little bit iffy at the moment. It's probably not going to go ahead just with... There's a lot of stuff with borders, and obviously a lot of the players are in school, and there's sort of like we know the restrictions we have at the moment with community sport. It's difficult in that way when they're not full-time professionals. So at this point, Youth League, it's still in the works, and there's a lot of stuff changing now in the background regarding different ages. What's been sort of key, Graham Arnold's been talking about that. To try and push the age probably up a little bit for more game time. I think that's a question you've got a little bit later too, but Youth League's a little bit iffy just with timing, because normally that started, give or take, soon enough now. And if you push that any further back, it sort of jumps into different states' NPL seasons. So it's probably best that it's just an NPL. I'll just move my phone. Probably best there. But A-League, everything's looking pretty healthy at the moment. Obviously, they're cutting between leagues and FFA or just FA now. That's going to be a weird sort of change that we have to call it now.
The Australian Cup, I'm hearing, potentially.
Yeah, they'll probably, I'm guessing you'll sell the rights to that at some point. Again, and maybe, Carlsberg Cup. Could we have something like that?
Could
Like
bring it back.
What was some of the best FA Cups or like League Cups in the
Carling
UK?
always stuck with me.
Carling's a good one, yeah. So, but for that respect, sort of WLeague, they've started training again now. You can see we announced a lot of our players like last month or month before that even. Other teams are slowly announcing that sort of stuff now. But no, everything's rolling now. Everything's full steam ahead. We're a month to go. Both teams are fully kicking off and we're ready to go. So it's really exciting.
Awesome stuff. Well said. Just while we're on the Youth League quickly, a bit of a curveball. You said it may not go ahead because of an abundance of reasons.
Yeah.
Is that possibly a good thing, given that this league, in the way that it's structured, has come under so much fire for being 8 games long?
Well, from our point now, I think this is a key change in COVID now with just timelines. Because, like I said, normally, NPL season normally finishes August. So players have, if you make finals or not, September off or bits of October. Come back, you play Youth League in November, December, January. Bit of January off at the end, Feb, and then NPL normally starts 14th of February, give or take, doesn't it? Yeah. So now with timelines, it has to sort of probably not get played. Kids need to play games. That's the most important thing. But it might be better for them in this financial year period that we don't have the Youth League and they move straight into the sort of NPL. So, again, we know our youth boys are still, like our resis, are still playing.
Yep.
So they've got to wait till the first to come back and train. So if that's in December, when do guys get time off and stuff like that? I think still important that some of these 15, 16-year-olds playing 18 months straight. So they need time.
And I'm just going to put it on the record as well that you're close to watching a lot of these players. You're very involved and quite often you're talking about some of these names before they are mainstream.
100%, mate.
So you're very close to the ground in terms of what's going on in our youth development. Let's throw it all the way back.
Yeah, let's go back.
You've always been a sporty guy.
Yeah.
Played plenty of sports in high school.
As you can see. Yeah.
Which we both went to the same school.
Yeah.
So I was lagging behind a good 20 minutes.
We had some good battles though back in the day.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they were good battles. I mean,
from my perspective, I had fun. Yeah.
You had fun nutmegging me with a bag of chips in your hand whilst I sweated to get near. But anyway, you played plenty of sports.
Yeah.
You're well versed in the sporting ranks through high school, and you always wanted to get in that space eventually as a career, which you now are in, one way or the other. You're a big Liverpool fan, and you've always been a very big Adelaide United fan, annual member since all the way back in 2005 when it all got underway. So let's rewind back to 2013. You're studying journalism at UniSA?
Correct. We both were
together.
together.
Say we both were?
We were both studying journalism, similar classes you were following me about.
You were doing my assignments. Received a certain email.
Yeah.
And this email was from the club. And long story short, here we are today. Take us back.
So I remember this would have been second year uni.
First year.
No. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. First year uni, 2013. And I think it was Nick Kerber had sent an email out to the uni.
So Nick Kerber was?
The media manager,
the time?
Similar, whatever the title was at that point, 2013-ish. And that email had come out. We'd get a lot of them, like most unis do, placements here, placements there. And this one obviously caught my eye pretty quickly. And I think like every sort of, I'm going to say generalize here, guy, but every guy who's doing journalism wants to get into sport.
Give or take, yes.
Majority of the
Leave
population.
the 5% out. Yeah. The 5% political nerds. But
as we'd always say at the start of your first class, what do you want to be? I want to be a sports journalist. So every guy would go down there. So when that email came through, I was pretty quick to send off the most basics of resumes and with some links to my sort of stuff that we'd been doing together with a couple other people at uni, and got a call and an email back pretty quickly and had to come into an interview. What now I think is crazy, 7 years ago now, walking into the Adelaide United office and nothing's changed. But walking in and going into that boardroom, and I remember meeting Curbs and I was nervous, I was sweaty, I like dressed up, and as everyone knows me, I'm pretty casual in my dress sense, especially when it comes to work. And I like really dolled up, like to give the best first impression.
Are we talking suit here? Or?
I didn't suit, but I would have had a shirt on 100%
okay.
at least.
Nice shirt, nice wool cut shirt.
Yeah, Mum would have been like, "You've got to dress up for this," because this was key for me at that point. Is similar to what we'll talk about. Is
shout out to Amanda Cutts.
Yeah, but
friend of the show.
But all of this sort of stuff is again when you're going through journo. This was a key gig. I didn't know how many people were going to be there, so did the interview. Curbs came back like a week or two later. Want you to come in for that first game. We're having the other volunteers come through, various things like looking after photographers on the field up the top, running team sheets, this was before Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Like, they were around.
They were just sort of taking off.
But it wasn't as readily available as now, and the fans didn't always have them. So still...
No NBN back in this time as well.
No, and still don't have it now. But so I remember going in, and that first day, there would have been 25 of us. Okay. What I thought was like, oh, shit, it's not like there's 3 or 4 of us. There's heaps of people.
You didn't just have to rock up and get it.
No. So, but I still think a lot of this comes down to, and I'm probably boring a lot of you right now, but by about 3 or 4 games in, because we had 4 or 5 people doing each role to watch everything, people just dropped off. So I think a lot of what we'll talk about with me is I've just hung around like a bad smell and continued working my way up. So it sort of worked like that. We had 25 to 30 people, and that full first season was sort of just after 3 or 4 games, there was 4 or 5 of us, and we just stuck around. And some of that people in that 25 now are working, some are at baseball, some are at basketball, some are doing all these other stuff in sport. And I think because football wasn't their main thing, they didn't want to continue with this. Whereas for me, I was cool to come and do every third game. I couldn't care less. I was like, yeah, wicked, I'll go help the photographers. You got Joe Janko there, like different people like that who was just helping chatting. I wanted to learn as much as possible at that point, and I'd pick up my Bunnings chair and sit down at the end of the field and watch the game. Snapchat was sort of getting big then, I think, at that point. Yep. So like Snapchat a goal, or quickly get that video, and there's now way too many posts on Instagram, but still some of those first posts I look back at if I'm like really bored with life. I'll go back and I'll look and I'll go, God, we were really posting that back then. But that was it. That's what you posted. Yeah.
So I just want to ask, I mean, being a fan, just seeing everything from one perspective every week, suddenly overnight, you're now pitch side, getting to work with players behind the scene.
Yeah, so at that point, we were still on the edge. So you'd still walk past and you'd be like, oh my God, it's Isaias. Or, I'd be Kuruska. Oh, I don't want to say that now because you'll listen. And I don't want to make his head any bigger. But it's like, at that point, it was still like, oh my God, I'm like close to here. Like I'm chatting to them, or you'd be like, oh, excuse me, Issa, can we get an Instagram or something? And so there was sort of that sort of thing to start with. But there wasn't that much interaction that first season. No, okay. Yeah, so.
All right. So obviously everything heated up for you. Yeah. You got more and more involved. It's still a volunteer at this point in time. Yeah. But you got more and more involved. It led to more and more things. And gradually, we're going to talk about your elevations over time. So started off just as a match day volunteer. Yeah, correct. If I'm not wrong. Then slid into a part-time videographer role.
Yeah, so I sort of started looking... I know one thing I
always had some above basic editing skills.
Very basic editing skills. But I always found a way, what I think for a lot of people out there is, so sometimes if you can find a niche that someone's not doing stuff with, sort of angle in that. And I know we didn't have many people doing videos. So I was like, I'll come and film press conferences. I'll edit them up. It's pretty easy, cut and paste, chuck an overlay on, and there you go. But I sort of did that as my way to get in the door, and I kept doing it. I kept volunteering, kept helping out. Oh, yeah, we need you tonight. Yep, sure. Still balance it with other work that I did, but that's sort of how it did start then. And 10 hours a week turned into 15 hours, turned into come up to training once a week, do this press conference. And then, like I said earlier, hang around like a bad smell and they'll keep you there.
Would you say your finest piece of videography work was that Miguel Palanca translation video? We're talking, just in case no one saw it or people haven't seen it that are watching, talking like a 15-minute sit-down, pure Spanish the entire way through.
Yeah.
You had to splice in all the subs.
Yeah, that was a tough one now I think back. But, yeah, even just the way the editing software's changed over time, and I don't do as much stuff of that now anyway. But, yeah, I still remember trying to sit down and time that all together and little things with video and how it changed. But also that signing, because you're nervous. A lot of that stuff too back then was quick turnarounds. Also, in the fact, we got this signing coming today.
This guy's got Madrid on his CV.
Yeah, and it was, I have to say, testament right at the moment with the club is everyone's pretty open about that stuff internally in the 4 walls, and it gives people time to plan stuff. Whereas back then, a lot of it was like, oh yeah, we're signing Palanca's here today, and we're doing a video, and it's like, oh shit, and it's got to be ready tomorrow. So there was like short turnarounds and that stuff, and times change now, and that was a tough one back then, I have to say. I hadn't thought about that video in a very long time.
So we'll fast forward into when you became, this was a very interesting gig. You got the Asian Champions League liaison officer.
Yeah.
You're on the ground. Now, people might not know about this, but you literally got to hang out, in a way, with like your GAMBA OSAKA stars in the Pullman Hotel.
Yeah.
You were getting all their takeaway food to them.
Yeah. So that
running
was
around like a mad dog. What was that like?
So that was 2016, 17, 8. So that feels like a really weird time now, how quickly things sort of go. But yeah, that was when I was still part-time casual around, and they sort of said, yeah, we need someone to do this. And yeah, stay at the Pullman with them and go get their food. I remember Jeju had to go. They didn't like the chef that they had or the food they had at the Pullman. So they'd go to like a Korean restaurant. We'd have to get it delivered in. And it's not about like getting the gifts. What wasn't always the best thing, but like Gamba were really good. The first day they met you, here have a top, here everything. They signed the top. Got it signed at home, and that's still one of my favourite memories. And I remember Jeju. That was probably the hardest week of the 3 teams I did. And I was like, oh, if I didn't want to ask for anything, but I was kind of hoping for a jersey. And the chick comes in and goes, oh, Will, I've got something for you. And I was like, oh, here we go. This is going to be wicked. And I didn't even have an iPhone, but they had a little Jeju sticker, no word of a lie. It was just a small sticker, about a centimetre big. She goes, put that over your Apple logo and you'll remember us. And I looked at her and I thought I was getting punked. I thought Ashton Kutcher was just going to come through. And I was like, oh, like you don't do it for that sort of stuff. But the last team we had, who was the third team in that group?
Don't ask me, mate. You were working.
No, now I'm trying to remember now. Because Jeju was the Koreans.
Yeah.
And then the Chinese team. I don't know, it doesn't matter, but
yeah.
they were really good too. All of them were really good. And when I go experiences, I can sit back at life in 20 years or whatever, and I still tell some pretty cool stories.
Was it Changchun Yatai?
Nah, I don't think so. But like Endo and stuff are walking around and chatting, and the people there were lovely, and just the different way they experience football too. And I think at that point, like we're still professional.
Yeah,
we are. But those guys, even just the squad lists that they bring, because they have 35 first teamers anyway, and they bring over 26 or whatever, and just the way that they run their operations is crazy. But no, it's I look back at certain things that I've done, and I go driving a minibus with all these Koreans in the back, and driving around Adelaide and stuff. It's been some interesting moments.
Similar to your coaching style?
Yeah.
Parking buses?
Never.
No, so, I mean, that would have been a fantastic experience. And then you've participated in various community roles too, facilitating coaching clinics, player appearances at local clubs, which is very important, fundamental for a club like ours to spread everything around the community. So this was all really when you were thriving and climbing up the ranks.
So I'm not thriving now?
Well, I would say you're just in a comfortable full-time role.
Comfortable full-time position,
But if we take it back a few years, 2015, Liverpool visit. We never thought we'd see this day come. We're both massive Liverpool fans. You probably way bigger than me, but you're a massive Liverpool fan.
Sure.
You've travelled far and wide to watch them, gone to Anfield. I mean, no one ever expected this day to come. We actually get it over the line. Liverpool visit, and you are front and centre. Running around Brendan Rodgers' press conferences. Just take us back. I mean, you've got that famous Jordan Henderson profile picture as well.
My best profile picture.
Model amount likes, we're talking. But what...
Most for me, not for Hendo.
But what a time that was when Liverpool came.
Yeah, we were actually talking about that today. I don't know how we got talking about when they came in 2013 for the victory game. And then we were talking about here at Adelaide Oval. And just... thinking back to the sort of memories of that time, and I remember when they trained at Cooper's the night before, and all the security guards we knew from when we were there, and we were trying to sneak through, and they were obviously strict security. I just got my jersey framed actually finally from that I got the guys to sign, and just those the memories of getting Hendo and Nathaniel Klein, but then there's certain players just walking straight past. But I remember like the Liverpool security were like, get the F out, like move. Whereas our security guards were like, just sneak back in. So, but now being 5 years ago, it sort of changes what you think, and like being on the field again, when we did play at Adelaide Oval, and You'll Never Walk Alone, all that sort of stuff. So again, for people who don't support Liverpool, they probably couldn't care less. But when we did
still a major event.
When we now get these clubs, I think we lose sort of the understanding of how important that was to Australian football back then. Now Liverpool have been 3 or 4 times now. It's like, okay, Liverpool here again, cool. Yeah. Whereas I think we still have to understand, and we're so lucky we can watch them every day on our phones and all that sort of shit. But it's now a great time. Like I look back on these memories, and I'm pretty lucky to do what I did and have the opportunity still when I wasn't full time, still to be given sanctum sort of roles, walking behind. And I remember it was. Like even just seeing certain players now who've won Premier Leagues, being up close and personal.
Sterling, I think, played.
Yeah, Sterling was there. Joe Gomez was there. Milner was there. Hendo and all those guys sort of playing. Then you got some of the duds that were there at that time. But no, just seeing them all up close and personal. And yeah, it's crazy experiences that we've all had in football.
Absolutely. These are just life goals that you're ticking off at this point. So fast forwarding again, you end up winning the prestigious Remo Paris Award, which is an award the club gives out every year, recognising a club man or woman.
Club person.
Club person.
It's 2020.
Yep. Who has stood out in their role and given far and beyond what's expected of them. You won this award. Now, before you tell me how honoured you were to receive it.
Yep.
How important is it that in workplace institutions, particularly sporting organisations, where the players and coaches can sort of be the long-time faces, which kind of takes some of the credit away from what people do behind the scenes, for this award to be given out every year, recognising someone like you who does everything behind the scenes, makes you feel very valued, I assume, in the organisation.
100%. I had obviously zero idea. I had some sort of idea on the night because there was some weird things going on. Jordan was like, I need you to come early to be a model for a photo. I was like, again, yes. Voice for radio, face for radio. But I was like, why do I need to take a photo beforehand? All this sort of stuff. And I didn't know. I feel extremely grateful. Again, our job behind the scenes, like in all these sporting organisations, is to do everything to get the team on to play, whether it's an hour beforehand, 30 seconds before the first whistle. That's our job, and our jobs do go unnoticed, but I think that's the most important thing is we get out there and we do as much as possible to get the guys to get the 3 points or the girls to get the 3 points when they play a game. So for me, obviously, I'm extremely honoured after Remo. I think I was there for 2 or 3 years volunteering when Remo was still with us, and
you had some good banter with the guy.
Yeah, good banter because I couldn't understand a single word he said.
I was waiting for that.
Oh, yeah, I could not understand really a single word. I'd just laugh and we'd have a good time together. But he was a great man. And for me to be awarded with that is something I'm really proud of. It still sits there just in my living room, and I look at it a lot of the time and reminds me again of why we do our job and how it's just a cool thing to have and be recognised by people.
Beautiful, and you should be proud as well.
Thank you, mate.
So we'll get into the present day.
Yeah.
So you are the football operations coordinator. Now, when that title gets thrown around, I assume a lot of the fans that aren't particularly close to the day-to-day running of the club probably go, well, what the hell does that mean? We're going to get to that.
I might ask them too.
We're going to get more into that as we go along. Yeah. But if I had to get you on the spot to sort of best define what your role is at the club
Do you get my job description up?
You might need to. You might actually need to. But give us some kind of general overview.
I feel like it's one of those things I need to do a week calendar, and we go through what my mornings are like. So normally it's wash Bruce's car, go get Bruce's laundry.
So these are KPIs that we're talking about?
Yeah, KPIs. I got to wash Bruce's car, get Bruce's laundry.
This is Bruce Dutay,
Yeah, Bruce Dutay answer his emails, shine his shoes. No, obviously none of that stuff. But it's daily for me is, again, like I say, when you're talking about the award, is just sort of we've got to do everything to get the boys and girls on the park on the weekend and make sure. So my role has changed over time too. So when I started in 2017, there was different people in these roles, and we've had different people. So Ante was there, Aurelio was there, Bruce now. Different people have taken different things. At that start, Cuttsy was also looking after WLeague a lot, and then he became interim CEO.
So we'll just put on the record, the current CEO, Nathan Cosmino, you were working under him directly.
So it's sort of different points and different roles and responsibilities have come, being more hands-on with youth and WLeague. Now it's transitioning a little bit more into ALeague stuff, and WLeague's being looked after by Ivan, previous head coach. And so youth has sort of changed in different ways too. So a lot of registrations, a lot of writing up contracts, back in flights, accommodation, training schedules, what under different coaches has been easier and stuff, and Carl's a breath of fresh air when it comes to these sort of things too. But a lot of different things, player appearances. So you said earlier, we're going to have to community stuff, so sending out updates. But a lot of this stuff has come and gone in my job description over time, and we've expanded different areas, and I've got it and lost the things I do too. So now, look after today, putting in kit allocations for the season. So little things like that where it's they just get done, but FFA leagues ask us, what kits do you want to play in certain rounds? We clash, and you'd always think it's pretty self-explanatory. We're working out with the commercial guys which kits do we want to wear in certain games, etc. Pressing shirts, one of my main KPIs and skills, is pressing all the kits.
What's the biggest name you've pressed? Not literally, but in stature-wise.
No, I've had some good pressing stories. No, I'm trying to think. It's all just the players we normally have anyway. So when it comes to, I'm trying to think, Sergio Guardiola, when he came, was probably one of those ones. I remember his pain in the arse was when they sent it was all the individual letters, though. So have to line all that sort of stuff up. But no, yeah, so there's lots of little different things, and there's some days it's really enjoyable putting all the orders for kits together, all those sort of little things. I've missed things, and I've probably said roles that are other people's roles.
So you would get bogged down with a lot of menial tasks as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of days where you're like, oh, shit, here we go. But that's like any job. And then there's a lot of days where you go, I'm doing some pretty cool shit. So
no doubt.
But it's all those sort of little things that I think fans would understand. But when no one tells them, it's like, yeah, those little things like we've got to do this, we've got to do that to get the team ready, whether it's kit orders, the allocations that we're doing today. Again, the training schedule changes, all those certain little things to get the boys and girls on the park each week. And a lot of it comes when sponsors change and sponsors come. So UCAN's been great this year, and the apparel's good. I see you're repping the training kit.
Be rude not to.
At the Red Army thing a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, it was
the
very
door
fortunate.
the door prize. But that sort of stuff and organising all of that for the boys. So that was stuff I did at the start. So and not to talk about how people get into roles sometimes, but back in the day, that's what I did in 2014-15. Put the bags together for the players, make sure they got 2 polos, 2 pairs of trackies, all those sort of little things. And now it's where I am now.
Fingers in a lot of pies.
Yeah, mate. A lot of apple pies.
So people want to know about transfers now.
No, just talk to Bruce. You spoke to him last week.
Well, you don't necessarily sign off on them, but
I'd like to say I do.
You've got your finger on the pulse, that's for sure.
You ask me a lot of questions, and it's, as I say to everyone, even in the office, firmly deny everything that you ever ask me.
I'm not going to ask you about who's coming and who's going, but let's just talk generally about transfers. So a lot of people have their own ideas about how transfer works, but you've seen one from the very initial phase of contacting the player to the final signature on the dotted line.
Yeah, maybe not that early, but yes, yeah.
What does it actually involve, and how much does it have to do with third parties, certain signing on fees, things that we just have no idea about as a general fan?
Well, I think there's certain little ways. I won't go into what the ALeague salary cap is like, because I think other podcasts have probably done it better, or video things too, and us in the MLS really the only countries that have a salary cap, and how certain fees then go into the cap and certain exemptions, and there's lots of good articles out there too, and how to get around that. But obviously a lot of transfers are free transfers coming into the A-League, and I still think fans don't understand that the transfer window doesn't really mean anything. It's more the registration windows.
For selling players, it does.
Oh, for selling players, yeah, but when it comes to our players we want to bring in, and this year, obviously, we sold a lot of guys, but I think that's a positive for the club massively. That it's obviously sad to see like Lockie and stuff go, Riley, Nicola,
always
Paul.
going to though. That's
and I think it's a positive for us that our players are wanted by Europe, by European clubs, and seeing what Riley scored a couple of weeks ago, watched Lockie a couple of weeks back on YouTube. One of his games they played Chelsea under 23s. Looking at those guys, so it's perfect, but. Because, it's free transfers. Majority of the players that we bring in, whether it's like other Australians through other A-League teams, and not swap deals, but we'll release someone this day, they'll release their player, and we can make a swap to fit into the salary cap, or, getting back a player like Tommy Urich. At the moment, is on free transfer now, so he can come in. So it's more important, I think, fans probably get their heads around registration windows and when they can be finalised. So, like you said, transfer windows are important for when players can leave the club. But there's still a lot of those deals are done outside that, and then just are announced first minute of a transfer window being open again too. So I know a lot of leagues are going through those problems. Deals are done months beforehand, and then they just announce that first minute, or you know what I mean, with how the registration changes. So
it's really not like playing football. I mean, Football Manager's pretty accurate these days, but it's not like a FIFA transfer, is it? Like
well, for us, no. I think for us here in Australia, it'd be completely different for Liverpool or Manchester United or some other teams. But A lot of it is probably the behind the scenes stuff of
How much have you got to sell the state itself? How important is that?
Oh, to be honest with you, like sometimes I've picked up certain players from the airport. What I still think is some of the funniest gigs is this face is the one that arrives at Adelaide Airport.
Driving Baba Diawara around to his appointments.
Yeah. I've
at
had
one
some
point in time.
funny conversations with Bubba. He's a great man. Career Matt Moore, different ones, and some of these players come and really actually haven't done that much research into it, or probably the internet shows them Adelaide and it's what maybe Victorians say Adelaide sort of like. And so I've got a little route I take from the airport to one of our, like this is when we used to have a spot that we'd take in a hotel.
So that showcases us off a little bit
Oh
more
yeah, it's
nicely
about it's like a 15-minute drive.
the airport developments.
Yeah. So I'll tell you right now, I take them through the air, like from like Sedona and Bradman Drive, and I'll be like, oh yeah, let's, because it's nighttime most of the time when these international flights would land either nighttime or first thing.
You want to see
morning.
the skyline.
Yeah, but I'd go like past Adelaide Oval and they'd see it lit up. Is that the stadium? Oh no, this is the stadium still on over there.
We do play here once
a year, give or take.
here and there.
No, but little things like that I pinch myself sometimes, and you take these people around and selling Adelaide. That stuff's on Bruce's side that he does and deals with all the monetary values. And when you spoke to him last week, and I think he said he'll come on the show at some point. We're discussing in the office, but that's his domain. And then once it comes to me as visas, and at the moment travel exemptions, COVID's been tough to
massively thrown a spanner in the works.
Yeah, to get people in. So that was like Harvey when he arrives, but obviously having to get the Australian government to approve for him and his family to come in, and even Tommy when he gets over. So all those sort of little things have to get done now, and those processes are not overnight. That's a couple of days of waiting to make sure that this stuff is done, and stuff that I didn't know I'd be doing 12 months ago, and it's something really cool now, and it's a stressful gig in that way, but it's also fun and it's enjoyable. So,
but yeah, you are working to those deadlines a lot of the time.
Yeah, and a lot of it, especially COVID. Before that was a little bit easier to do this stuff because they can come over and you can work through visas and stuff after, and so then the challenges of getting documents translated and stuff. It's not hard, but it's sort of time consuming. You're waiting for things to get all your ducks in a row and go from there. So I think from a transfer perspective, it's a lot of it just has to also align and how the squad sort of balances out. And I think we're all pretty happy. Yeah, so I think the squad's really taking shape now. Yeah.
Absolutely, no one's going to disagree with that. Yeah. How often are you at Playford? Obviously, the club's training base.
It depends. Some seasons I'm up there a bit. Like when I was doing video stuff back in the day, I'd be up there two, 3 times a week. We're based at the office at Highmarsh, so communication lines are very easy at the moment. You got the phone to Carl and chat about schedules and different things, or people once a week, probably give or take. It depends on the time, and obviously with COVID right now, we're not in a full league lockdown in a way, but there's sort of like a semi-bubble at the training centre. So we can obviously come up and down, but we're doing less things of bringing people in to watch trainings that have to be there at, or, you know, sort of mean. So previous roles have been whenever junior kids would come up, I'd do that, or random presentations that I'd run. But yeah, so now it's more sort of office-based at Highmarsh. But yeah, up once a week, and try and get up once a week anyway, just to see everyone as much as possible. Keep those communication lines open and say hello to some of the boys.
Cool. So let's get a little bit topical now.
Oh, here we go.
Your best memories as a fan of the club, whilst working or not working there?
So, yeah, I'll go first. Probably best, like everyone, is the 3-0.
Let's get that one out the way.
Yeah, so I remember going with Dad when I used to go to games as a kid, sit up the back, southern
Members
end.
side.
Yes, no, southern end, right at the back, behind the goals. I love watching football from behind the goals. So right up the top, that's where we'd sit, always back row. It'd be like under the E or something where it says Adelaide United at the top. That's where we'd try and sit every single week. Dad and I, when we'd go, or me and my mates. So I still remember that game because it was bumper to bumper. There was no free seat. And
just clarify, 3-0 against who?
The 3-0 game in the
Bunyard Court?
Yeah, Bunyard Court. Yeah. So back then, that's when I would have been 13, 14,
that
15.
Was absolutely bumping that night.
Yeah. And then when it comes to favourite memories of working at the club, would be any of the finals. So the 3 FA Cups, I've been a part of all of them. I think that 2014 one is some of my favourite memories.
Yep.
At that
the
point,
game aside.
yeah. But that sort of the old change rooms at Cooper's, seeing the old videos and that first photo, and that's when you really felt like a club. That
Very
was
emotional night, wasn't it?
well. I still
first trophy we'd lifted in a very long time.
yeah, I still remember the after party and still getting invited to that, and I was a no one at the moment at that point. Really, like.
Spill some details. Where was the after party?
I won't. No, it was just the Republic, I remember. But they were fun times, and some of the guys, and I remember we played, I think it was Newey, like 3 days later, and we didn't play well. But I think from that perspective of it all,
Maybe that had to do with Eugene Galegovic being tempted to stay over your house that night. And,
no, mate, no
get your mum
comments.
to cook bacon and eggs the next
That was
morning.
actually that was the A-League Grand Final.
Right.
But no, so Grand Final was fun. I still find funny different memories of that night, and then the other 2 FA Cups we've won. Yeah, so the other 2 we've won, and they've been some of the best memories, and sort of that's the rewards of the hours you put in. And I think from everyone off the field, they're the nights you love the most. Players obviously get around them heaps, but for us as office staff members and the administrative staff and the football staff, your strength and conditioning coaches, all of those guys, your assistant coaches, everyone, they're the nights you love the most because you just the sigh of relief when you make it there and you win those. And yeah, there's nothing like it. And we probably party more than the players sometimes. So
I'm going to ask you about that. How much does it affect the mood of the actual workplace when we're in a real run?
I think we're discussing that this week. Is sort of like it feels weird because we haven't played a game for a couple of months now, obviously, and sort of how we're on a high at the moment. I have to say, everyone's pretty bumper in the office with like we said, the signings this week, and I still don't know where I'm looking at you or looking at the camera, but I'm looking at the fans. But no, I think from the perspective of when we're winning games, everyone's real happy. And I think that's the same because then your membership and your ticketing staff are happy because there's people buying tickets because we're winning games. And when we're losing games, it's like, oh shit, no. Now then the media guys have to try even harder to get people to come to games, and people might not be biting because people like you are writing bad questions about the team, but you know, like bad comments. But you know, like so when we're winning games, it's happy. You go up to play for it. Everyone's really happy. You're seeing we're day after a loss and they're at a recovery session and you're doing a video and you can just see everyone running laps like, why the hell are we here? But again, from an office perspective, we ride the wave too. And I think there's nothing like a post-game beer after a match with a slice of pizza and you're just like that one's done and then we're off to WLeague the next day or something. So
there's not much me time for you, is there?
What do you mean, sorry?
There's not much me time in this job for you.
Oh, no, I think it's like anything. We live and breathe football and you have the opportunities to...
But one of your colleagues told me once, Mari Zanin, that football never sleeps. So because you are around the clock in your job, it must test your times.
Well, there's different times with certain things. Like obviously, like I was saying before, with the visas and the travel exemptions and stuff, is the stress of waiting. And I think like everyone in society now a little bit's trying to get off your phones all the time. Whereas sometimes for us, they're there, and I've turned my email notifications off, but I'll check them every hour or so. But getting certain exemptions through, and it's a sigh of relief. But you might be at a family dinner, and everyone's like, "Why are you checking your phone?" I'm like, "I'm not just swiping right or left. Like I'm actually checking something important right now." So. It never sleeps, but then there's also times when you can get a good break, and it's like any job. I think if you do enjoy it and you do love it, there's hard days, there's great days. You appreciate the me time when you do get it.
You went on the hub.
Yes, the hub. Yeah,
which was
we haven't spoken about the hub.
Well, let's talk about it now.
Yeah.
So obviously the infamous hub that everyone had to do to finish last season off.
Yeah.
6 weeks locked away with the staff.
Yeah, so we were in Sydney for 5. I think we got to 29 nights. I think it was in the end that we were away, and I think it was about the 24th or 25th when we had that 2-2 with City, and then we had to wait around.
Stupidly.
I'll make no comment on that situation, but we had to wait around. So yeah, it was like 29 nights and stuff, and away from home in a bubble in the hotel, 3 different hotels, and. The guys at all the hotels were lovely, and the last hotel was great. We were pretty much the only people there. We had the run of it, but I think that was a really eye-opening experience for me, getting to help out with all that stuff and making relationships with different staff members and players, and having something that I remember leaving for. I wasn't honestly too ecstatic about going. I was probably a little pissed off.
I don't think anyone would blame you though.
No, I think at that point we were still
in a world. It's not exactly a holiday.
No, in a COVID world where we didn't know exactly what it was like. Adelaide was safe. We had no cases. We were going to Sydney, again, 10, 15 cases or whatever. And we went over there, and it was the league rules made it very, very strict on what we couldn't do. And it was hard to find activities for the guys to do because it's like when they're here, again, they can go to cafes and stuff. But when we're over there, it was like you wanted to go to training. Every day was training because you wanted to spend more time outside as possible.
Yep.
And the last hotel we had was great because we had a lot of space. And but yeah, from an experience wise, we watch movies at night, play cards, different sort of things. We'd play a couple of other card games, Werewolf or something. We'd play heaps, and it was experience. I probably chucked on the kgs because we had buffets every day, and
Everyone just got a bit closer though, didn't they?
yeah, we did. And I think that's relationships that I didn't have with certain players and conversations you have and staff members and learning more about, like I said, different staff members. And yeah, it's sort of now, it's crazy. It's been 3-4 months now since we came back. And then obviously sucked was the 2 weeks quarantine. What was, some people say was a bit of time off. We're stuck in a house. You can't leave anywhere. Sort of what those 5,000-6,000 people are doing right now, and it's not the most fun experience. It sort of tests you, especially after we were in a quarantine environment for 5 weeks beforehand. But what a roller coaster! I thought we played ridiculously well over there, and I think everyone sort of played with a freedom that we hadn't played with a very long time. And yeah, I was ecstatic with the experience, and it's something I'd never traded in. Wouldn't go again if they asked me. I would go again, but maybe let someone else have the experience.
Yep.
But I'm really happy that I got to go, and I probably didn't divulge much there at all, but it was a tough experience for everyone by the end of it because
Mentally
it was us 29 guys or whatever it was all there in everyone's pockets for a month. I don't know how those clubs the guys are going over in Dubai or whatever it is. Qatar, sorry, yeah, for the Asian Champions League right now. And again, it's a fun job, and there's some days where it's great, especially in the hub, and some days where it was like, God, I could really just go with a pizza right now or something, something really good. And it was a great experience, mate. It was some of those games you've been watching empty stadiums, and then there's just us there. And I don't know if anyone's really got. I know some fans get the opportunity each year to watch some of those behind closed doors friendlies. That's when I think you understand so much what they say and different things, and everyone's yelling at each other, and you can hear the whole thing in the stadium. It's just echoing. Whereas when there's 10, 15,000 of us at Coopers and you can't hear a word that the players are saying, but when you can sort of remove that, I think it's like when those NBA, they mic up the players. It's actually a really interesting concept that I'd love to see us if we could do it at some point, because you'd learn so much more of actually what goes on. I guess soccer's probably a bit harder with how players land and tackles, where you put mics and certain little things, but I think that'd be a cool experience because I learned so much even from that, hearing the coaches speak and the players speak too. So
yeah, and it would have been very insightful as a budding coach as well.
Yeah, budding. If you want to
get into the professional ranks one day. So, Cuttsy, what does Adelaide United look like to you in 10 years? And I want to list off a few questions here separately, but we might just roll through them.
Yeah, it's fine.
Stadium situation. It's a bit of a debate, but speaking to you off the camera,
I have my opinions, yes.
There's plenty of reasons why it would be beneficial to eventually move.
The best way to say it for me is I think Coopers is the home of football here in South Australia.
Yep.
There's obviously then has to become a financial element, and I think it's great that we're hoping that the state government can invest some money for the Women's World Cup. What is key for football in this state, what I think people don't understand how important it is, that if we can get this over the line and we can get games, I don't know, Nigeria versus
Italy
in a group stage game, I think we'll get a decent crowd. We'll get a good crowd, and it will be important for it, not just female football in this state, but football as a whole, to get these teams over here and have a World Cup.
So we really have to capitalise there.
Oh, we have to, and I think, but I do see. I'd love to see a new stadium in the city, and that's from the perspective of a just entertainment fan. If I'm going to throw entertainment as a bundle,
just a hub
of everything, because I see how much the game has even grown in AFL and cricket by being in the city. Cricket was obviously great when Adelaide Oval was like it was in 2005, 6, etc. But now 50,000 seat stadium, we know with the Ashes, again, you get some of the shitty teams over and you still get 20,000, but it's in the city. I know Coopers is what some people say is 5 minutes away. It is 5 minutes away. But if we have something in the city, you're going to draw a much bigger crowd. I still think that's 10 years away if it does happen. We still need to capitalise on Coopers because it's the best football stadium, specific stadium in that way in the country. And we just want as many people, obviously, to get there as possible post-COVID when there's not restrictions. But I think in 10 years' time, I'd like to see us with a new stadium, because I think financially it's probably better. I'm not a financial guy, but I'd like to see us be the premier event on a Friday night in the city, where you're walking down Rundle Mall, whatever that looks like. In 10
quick
years.
hour of after work drinks.
And then people are going, oh shit, let's go to the soccer tonight. Like, let's go. Let's watch
So you
United.
reckon that's the best way to get those sort of walk-in fans that we don't usually see?
But yeah, I think it's. I'm no marketing person. It's not my job. I'll say my opinion, but no, I think it's a. I'd love to see that. But I'd love to see it anyway if people did that at Coopers.
Yeah.
Like if people were, again, we're not in an office building in the city where people, you go to the soccer, but
It's a bit more of an effort to get on the tram though.
do we drive, do we not, then tram it back in to go to town, whereas I know however many times we've done it leaving the cricket, it's a 10-minute walk to Peel Street, done, Bob's your uncle, you're on the piss, like, but you know what I mean? So it's, and you're at restaurants, all that sort of stuff, and I'd love to see that. In 10 years, I don't know where we'll be. It's football in this country anyway.
Yep.
But I'll love us to continue appreciating Coopers until the last day that we'll have to leave at some point, whether it's 2050 or something. You'll probably, because I think for the growth of the game, unless you build out and make it 50,000 seats there, it's probably,
And we know how grossly expensive it is to do that.
Yeah, update Coopers, yeah. So no, that's my opinion on the stadium matter as it is. So yeah.
So let's talk about whether this club is, in 10 years' time, going to be a breeding ground for the best young talent in the country, winning titles season in, season out, or both, or somewhere in between.
Putting me on the spot here. I did get the questions beforehand, but I think we can see the players that we have coming through, and some of these other ones, we've got our 04s, 05s, some 06s coming through too, is some really talented players. Again, without the youth league, we can't see what other teams are like, different states. But I think it shows our NTC system and our youth system coming through, the millions of different names that it's called all the time, that when our players do leave us, I know some people get stressed. It's like, Melbourne City's taking our kids, Central Coast, Perth. I think it's just more of a testament to football in South Australia that these Melbourne City would rather have our players in their youth team than their own. And we've seen Yaya's come back, Joe's come back. What's great, I'm missing names probably too, but that I think the positives, as much as we see Lockie go, and it's sort of untapped potential for us. I'd love to see his potential be tapped at Brentford.
I think it's more the issue people have is more with like Ataris going.
Oh yeah, I'll stay out of that from my opinions of it, but. We did start in the game against Victory, played 90 minutes, I think, in the game, the internal they played a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
And I do wish him the best. Great young kid. Really talented footballer. And that's a pain in the arse when those types of people do go. But you also want people who want to be at the club too.
And credit to us for giving him a platform.
Yeah, no, I think, and that's the thing is I think for everyone that then goes to another A-League club, and it's disappointing. I still hope he does really, really well and plays really good football. And then we see in 3 years he's playing in Europe somewhere because that benefits the national team. What I still think is really important that our players, when they do go, they stick it out overseas, but they leave at 21, 22 from here. I don't know if that's a question you've got at some point after, but rather than go at 22 with 50, 60, 70 A-League games under their belt, sort of like what Riley's done now, I think he can really succeed over there in England now. Whereas when they're 18, it's a little bit more difficult because you're sort of thrown into the slaughter pretty quickly. So I hope, to answer your question, coming all the way back, we need to compete for titles. It's really important. But also we need to have some of the best young kids coming through. And everyone makes jokes about the league being recycled. I'd love to see some of these kids be given opportunities before someone comes from their 9th or 8th club. What I'm sure at some point is going to happen in the next couple of years.
Yep.
If two more teams, obviously got the 12 teams now, say it goes to 14, more players might play for an 8th team, 9th team. I'd love to see more local NPL players come, but that comes with an aligned calendar and all these other things that I know we have differing opinions on. But that's what I'd like to see at some point. I think we can have kids play games and we know they're good. And I know there's NPL players say I'm better than them, etc. But we've got some really good kids coming through, and I'm hoping after this year and maybe even next year, Carl's the perfect man there to get it out of them and give them opportunities. And if they take them with two hands, they can be overseas. They can be really, really good A-League players.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to look forward to in that sense. I might marry these two questions together. So you are a football coach. You've enjoyed enjoyed plenty of success coaching Adelaide City's various youth teams.
Yeah.
You've moved on now into a senior role where you'll be the senior assistant at Adelaide Victory in 2021. Before we touch on your personal experiences, how do we make things a little bit better for young players in this state who are playing at that sort of highest level that they can be, and really wanting to fast track their development? What are the critical things that we need to change?
Well, I don't know if it's always just changing, because I think, like I said just before, and we sort of said, is we're developing a lot of good young players. We are developing a lot of really, really good young players, and there's only 11 spots in Adelaide United each week, a youth team, a reserves team, etc. But it's getting these kids to play enough games at a testing level where they can perform at their best over a long period of time. There's not a really great answer in the way I'm beating around the bush in a bit, but I think we just need kids to be playing a lot of games. I think it comes down to training. I think it comes down to developing coaches. The little things like gear, but giving coaches enough. Like I say, you don't do it for the money, but it does help in a certain way when you put in a lot of extra hours to put out to put out training sessions, to put out different things, because a lot of these coaches do have full-time jobs. A lot of them are parents too. So
most of them, to be honest.
Most of them have full-time, unless you're like an NPL coach. Everyone else has full-time jobs. So where do you find the half an hour, the hour to put down and plan a session? I've always found the biggest thing when I changed my mentality as a coach was to try and plan a session 95% of the time. And be that organised. I'm an organised person, I think so.
Works well in theory.
It does work well in theory, but life gets in the way too. So to develop the best young players, I know I had one. I won't go into it too much where it was, but there was one club I was at where we're doing a player appearance. It's a long story short, but he had 4 kids, and he was complaining about having 4 because he couldn't do anything. And I can't remember which player it was with me, and I was like, this is actually the best session you could probably have, because it's 1 on 4.
Yep.
You get 60 minutes. You get 15 minutes of time on each of them to better improve them. Whereas if you've got 16 kids in an hour, again, quick maths is 4 minutes, give or take, 3.75, something like that. Where it's like you had the best session you probably could have had. All he did was complain, and I was so close to going, mate, you need to go and do a session, go online, find some drills. Change your mentality. I think a lot of it is also coaches changing their mentality. I know Cosy will always have a go at me in the office that I'm there to win. I am there to win. I think it's important. I think it's a really important tool for kids.
One thing we do agree on.
No, we do. I think it's really important because our generation has come through now where everyone gets a bloody ribbon at sports day. Doesn't matter for me. I always
love those well done ribbons.
No, yeah. Like I didn't care if I didn't get a well done ribbon. I came 6th in the race. It's life. I want to be number 1. I think these kids, they need to understand when they get to that level, and they need to, that sometimes you've got to dog it out and get to 3 points somehow. You might not always play well, but there's got to be that balance. I don't know if it's 40, 60, 75, 25. But I think winning is also...
I love your quick maths.
Yeah, quick maths. Working out 100. You know what I mean? It's like, I think it's important that we get to a point where these kids can play good games, like play 25 games of football a year. And everyone's sort of in a decent level. I don't want just all the clubs to hoard the best talent, but people also go where the best other players are to perform at a really good level. I don't think it's great that some kids automatically go up 3 or 4 years, or they're chasing JPL at different clubs. And I still think there's something that I love. My 4 years at City was the tightness and the camaraderie of the place, and kids that live and breathe the badge. Still look at a couple of them that I had from my first group that are now like training first team. I couldn't be more prouder of those boys. But
it must be very rewarding.
But they've been City kids since they were 6. And I'm happy those kids stuck it out in certain years where they might not have been the best player or something, and they didn't just jump ship when a club came to them. I don't like seeing, especially between 12 and 16, kids jumping each year where, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go here. Like, stick it out, play, get games of football, and understand that you have to work your ass off. And it's the same with coaches, same with anyone. You have to work. You're not going to just get given a A-League contract. How many kids would be at Liverpool right now trying to work the reserves, trying to work their ass off just to get a sniff? So I think some kids, and it's also listen to your parents where possible, but sometimes it's good to also listen to the coaches. And at a certain age, the kids have to speak directly to them and not speak through parents too. So
you've enjoyed seeing your Adelaide City teams win, I think, how many is it now? 4 in a row? 3 in a row?
I've won 2 cups, 2 leagues in a row, won 3 leagues. Oh, yeah, so I think it was the second year I didn't win anything. But
sure you're not forgetting anything there?
What?
No, I'm just saying.
I think
it's a lot of things to win.
No, well, we did double this year and double the year before, and then did the double in my first year.
So it's going to be very different for you now as a senior assistant
Yeah.
at a State 1 club, which did struggle this year. You're going to be under the great Rick Saraggio.
Yeah.
Shout out to him, friend of the show.
Yeah.
Great mentor
friend, yeah.
who you're going to be under.
Yeah.
How are you going to align everything from this point for yourself, who does eventually want to be in that head coach role one way or the other? I mean, who knows what your ceiling is like and where it could go.
Thank you, mate. Yeah. No, I think...
Because you've been doing it for so long and since you were really young and you've learnt a lot. But, you know, is there possibly a pathway to one day be sitting in the Coopers Stadium dugout?
Yeah, I think there's certain little... I still think... Yeah, there's dreams and aspirations I think that we all have, and we all have certain little things in life that we'd love to do. And where that path goes, I'd love to be a head coach at some point, or a coach, and there's certain little things we have to tick off on the way there, and I just enjoy learning off people, similar to what my points were earlier, talking about how I got my job now, is learning and doing lots of different things, and just being, I know it's stupid wording, but like a sponge in certain ways, just absorbing things off people. I enjoy coaching kids. I really enjoy it. I like seeing the growth and the understanding, especially in that 14, 15, 16, when they're that age, because you don't have to work just always on the technical skills. You can start talking, you know, football styles, philosophies, formations. But I enjoy seeing, to get your point about victory, is seeing these kids become good men. It's like as they grow up, like trying to sort of channel them and challenge them in that respect. At Victory is going to be different because we've got 16-year-olds to 33-year-olds. I haven't done that since I coached at Pembroke, Old Skulls, where you're dealing with heaps of different people with heaps of different life situations and styles and what their day was. It's like the kids. The one thing I always say to them each session was like, "What'd you do today at school?" Like, you had to done something that you have to remember. I think adults is going to be similar. It's like, well, how's work today? You've got all these different things where people's different lives are lined up and how we can make them better. And I still love when you see 27, 28-year-olds still coming out and training each week, 3 nights a week, because they just want to get that little bit better. And you still can get better at 32. You can get better at 16. So I'm really intrigued. I think it's a cool thing that they're doing down there. And maybe it's not the path that some people would take. And when I got the call, I was interested. And it was a different experience, something that I didn't want to just take another group of under 14s at Adelaide City if I got offered it. Do that for 2 years and then move on again and let them go, because I probably could have. But I really enjoy what we're sort of building now. It's tough with COVID because we went from starting 3-4 weeks ago, the original plan, to now stopping and then pushing it back, and now stopping and pushing it back. So I'm really intrigued, and obviously, the dream one day might be Coopers, might be Anfield, might be anywhere in the world. Again, there's probably another 100,000 blokes in the same position as me, not sitting on this couch, but around the world who dream of coaching at Anfield or whatever. But yeah, one day I'd love to do it.
Who knows where you might get to with all your connections? You still probably have Guillermo
just not going to weasel my way into into a gig.
Just saying though, like you would never have thought that Guillermo Amor, when he first stepped into the role here, would now be basically calling the shots at a board level at Barcelona.
I think he was doing it a little bit before that too, and how it sort of worked. But I know, your point is true. Yeah, no, I think it's really interesting, and I just like to learn off different people, and that's where my current role is. Like, if you could coach full time, I'd love to do it. There's heaps of other really good young coaches and older coaches too in South Australia that are ridiculously good that we can learn off and absorb information and go from there. I'm intrigued. I just want to learn, and I'm not someone who has to be at 28. I want to be doing this at 30. I want to be doing that, because you look at some guys coaching in their first time in the Premier League's at 55. Like, they've been doing it for years. And
everyone has a path.
Or they come in at 33. Or you're a Lampard, or I'm no Stevie G. I'd like to say I am, but these guys have this crazy experience too, and from there. But no, I'd love to it someday, and we've coached before together, different things. And no, it's something I really enjoy though. It's more like a passion. It's something that I like to absorb and gives me a different understanding of football that then in the office when they start talking stuff, I can just sort of chime in here or there, and then they can tell me to shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, awesome. And if it's not going to be coaching, it may well be going back to the heart of what you majored in, which is journalism.
Yes.
Because you've got plenty of your own little passion projects going on there as well. Let's plug your podcast quickly.
Yeah, so I do a podcast called Screen Blend, sort of film, TV, and games.
Very regular content.
Yeah, very regular. We do it once a week. I think outside of work, like you were saying before, trying to find me time. For me, it is your 9 to 5 works there, but also you like to switch off and have other things that I love and enjoy. And I'd say I'm a film buff. I really enjoy TV, and obviously from our journalism background, I like to talk, as you can probably, sitting through an hour of this podcast now, you're probably like, Cuttsy, shut up. But I enjoy talking. I enjoy absorbing that content and still using the skills that I learned to continue doing that stuff. It's similar to why I'm guessing you do this too, is in a way, is putting content. It's something I like and I really enjoy. I think it's important outside of work that you do have passions that you can jump into, and whether it's spending 5 hours a week or spending 20 hours, it's something I really do enjoy. So I do that, and then another one that I've sort of left on the back burner called the Chat Show. All of them are online.
Is that just to chat about life?
Yeah, chat about life. I'm working out what I want to do with the show a little bit now, because that was pre-COVID I started, and that sort of stung that in the arse, and I was sort of like, just didn't want to talk about COVID every day and how everyone's life had affected to that. But I'm working out what I want to do there. Both are on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or whatever it is, and wherever you get your best podcasts. But no, I do enjoy my media stuff that I did, and I still think it's important to continue with that stuff. And it's like I said, it's why you do this. I'm also guessing too, is to continue these skills, and you want to get into this sphere too. And I think it's great. I think passions are an important thing that everyone should have, and try and identify them as early as possible.
Good on you, mate. It's been fun.
Can I ask you some questions now?
If you want.
I always
don't know how we're going for time.
Oh, maybe I got time. I can see the battery on the top corner is still, it's not flashing yet, so it should be good. No, I wanted to ask a couple of things to you. Is again, we've been friends, and this passion project for you I think is important. Like, no one's asked you this, but why did you start this?
I started this because I fell out of love with coaching, and I was scared that if I did that and did nothing to sort of replace that love of having some kind of attachment to the game, aside from just being a fan that watches matches, that I'd kind of just like lose a bit of purpose, like just, on weekends and stuff. And so that was kind of the main driver, but I wanted to do this after the title winning season, but just had no idea what I'd be doing. So I kind of only started it because I felt like I really had to.
Okay, yeah. So I think for everyone, people don't see the effort you do put into this. It's a lot of time.
Thank you, mate.
Yeah, no, but I think we look over the world, like all over the world. You got Redman TV, you got your Arsenal fan TV. All these big clubs
They're
have
the
it.
inspirations.
And I think for our fans, it's great if they get around your content and comment, have a go at me if you want. You can slide into the DMs and have a go at what we do. But I think no, for you, who's been your favourite person you've had on? Because you asked me that, sort of similar thing, but who's been your favourite person that sat on this couch?
That's specifically sat on this couch?
Or all around, but like majority have sat on the couch pre-COVID,
it'd be criminal not to mention Marcos, because he's really gone far and beyond to invest a lot of his time in this place. There's Daniel Mullins, one that I really loved. He was just very level-headed guy that really came across beautifully for someone that hasn't done that much media. I think I really enjoyed Dave Scarcella too. He was.
I've got some funny Dave stories, but I'll leave that.
You used to room with him.
Yeah, I roomed with him twice when I did the Asian Champions League trip. I did. Long story short, when we had that 2016, so that Asian Champions League season that I was doing the Gamba stuff, we went to, I think it was Sydney first. No, wait, Melbourne or Sydney? Went to Melbourne, played a game, and then they had to fly out to China, and then they flew back into Sydney. So my gig that weekend, or both weekends, was to fly over and pick up the kids, and then bring the kids back. So I'd stay one night, and I remember after one of the games, I think it was Sydney, I think we'd won or something. We had a few drinks. It was one of the guys from the office's birthday. So we had some drinks, and then I woke up like 5 minutes before the bus was leaving because I slept through. And the only reason I slept through was Scarcella was making a lot of snoring noises. But I remember, and I was like, I couldn't sleep. It was like 4 o'clock, and I had my headphones in and everything. And then I must have got out to it like an hour before we needed to. And I was in the deepest of sleeps, and he didn't wake me up until he'd showered and everything and left. And he's like, yeah, we're off in 5. And I was like, because I was stressed at that point. I still was a full-time staff member.
He was trying to be nice, but he threw you under the bus.
Oh, massively threw under the bus, but he's a great guy. That's probably my funniest. Yes, that's the beauty of rooming with people. You never know who you're going to get.
Totally. Well, and going back to your question, I don't really go with favourites, but I mean, it'd be remiss of me not to mention Riggs, who
Yes,
you
yes, yeah.
spent plenty of time with off the
Riggs,
pitch
great
when he
guy.
was playing here. He gave obviously an amazing interview, but I owe all of them a lot
Yes.
because they do not get anything out of this other than a bit of fun talking about their careers, and so I owe them massively.
Yeah.
And you know, it's so good for us that we have this network of past players that don't have big heads and aren't full of themselves and don't sort of scoff at you for just being like a fan TV.
Yeah.
They actually see that, like, you know, you have put effort into researching their careers and you've got some questions there that no one's ever asked them before. And that's kind of what incentivizes them. So we're lucky to have that.
Last one I've got for you on Purebred Reds, Adelaide United Fan TV, is where do you see this in 2 years, 5 years? You obviously asked me the same question, but for you, is this something you want to be continue doing? Is there going to be an end date? Is there a goal? Like, what is it for you, even long term, short term?
Yeah, no, it takes up a lot of emotional energy. So I think it's going to wrap up one day.
Yeah.
That might be in a year.
Yeah.
It might be in 3 years.
Yeah.
But it has its end date. And where I see it going, just consolidating with where it's at now. You know, just plenty of fans that do watch, which is lovely, and get a lot of good feedback.
Yeah.
And being around the Cooper Stadium turnstiles to give fans their views and just see if we can get any bigger and better. But you know, we'll be fine if it just continues on as it is.
Perfect, mate. Thank you for having me.
Cuttsy, it's been fun.
It has been. I've enjoyed it. I miss chatting shit.
All the best
Especially
with you and in your role.
Thank you very much.
You've worked very hard, worked your ass off for several years, and I'm sure you have a lot of fun there. But
We do. Yeah.
we want to see you continuing to thrive in your role and keep going above and beyond to make sure that everything is ready for the team every week. Which is
that's basically it. Get ready.
Well, mate. All the best.
No, thank you very much.
It's been a great chat.
It has been, and I guess thank you everyone for listening.
Thanks for
Hopefully
watching, guys.
Haven't bored you to death.
All the best. Cheers.
See ya.